am starting the YouTube live stream literally right now. So you got to come over to the YouTube live stream. We are about to be live on YouTube to get the link to the mock draft. I'm about to post it in the YouTube live. Just look up WalterPicks on YouTube and you will see the link right there. Let me just pull up the chat here.
I think our YouTube is linked in our profiles as well.
Yes, it is.
Click through there.
It definitely is. Let's see. I don't know why I'm not seeing
Let's read.
pop out chat. Maybe that.
Do you
will.
like? I have an affinity for Josh Jacobs just because he's a Tulsa guy, and that's where I've been born as well. I really, really like Josh Jacobs. I just don't like his offensive line. And he hasn't quite proved yet to be a guy that can be successful in spite of a bad offensive line. Yes, he has run for a lot of yards, but it hasn't been very efficient when it's come to, yards per carry. Stuff like that. He just hasn't been there, but I do like Josh Jacobs a lot.
Yeah, I think
just not as
I think Josh Jacobs' talent is good, but yeah, from a fantasy football perspective, I don't love it. We are live on YouTube right now, guys, and you can come join the mock draft. We're going to be doing a live mock draft. You can literally see the picks as they're happening on our YouTube live. Just look up WalterPicks on YouTube, and we are sending the link in the YouTube chat. We are live on TikTok and YouTube right now. I am in this mock draft. We have Browns.WalterPicks in this mock draft. We have Texans.WalterPicks. Alex, who's live with us on TikTok right now, in this mock draft. And there's only 3 or 4 spots left. There's only 5 spots left in the mock draft, and now there's only 4. So you got to come join the mock draft. Someone's asking about picking up Deshaun Watson. We already mentioned it on this live stream. We don't think Deshaun Watson's going to play again for the Texans ever, and definitely not this season. So I don't think you should be adding Deshaun Watson.
I don't think he's worth being a draft pick on the season.
We have 3 spots remaining. We got 3 spots, 2 spots remaining. Falcons.WalterPicks is in.
Let's go, Samps. Sam, who are you looking at? You're looking for number 6 in your 12-team league. Who are you targeting at 6? Because
Yeah.
you're in a little bit of a precarious situation here.
Yeah, so I'm taking. I'm gonna have the 6th. I'm gonna have the 6th overall pick in an actual draft, and we have filled up the draft, so we will be starting it now. And you can come watch the live draft as it's happening. You can watch the live draft as it is. Watch the live draft as it's happening on the YouTube live stream. You can literally see the board and see the picks as they're happening. I have the 6th overall pick, and I have the 6th overall pick in my actual high stakes league coming up in just 24 hours. I think like a little bit over, probably like 30 hours from now is my draft, and I'm really hoping I get a running back with this pick. And I don't want to take Travis Kelce at 6th overall because it's just so hard to get 2 good running backs after that. But if I have 5 straight running backs taken before my spot, then it's really going to put me in a difficult spot. And we have Browns.WalterPicks on the clock right now. We'll see who he takes with his pick. I did give us a minute timer this time for the draft picks because 30 seconds felt long for me on stream last time. But I'm probably going to take either Ezekiel Elliott or Saquon Barkley.
I bet Jack takes Nick Chubb.
He might.
If I were a betting man, I would say Jack takes Nick.
Yeah, he definitely might take Nick Chubb here if he's even in the draft at all, because I feel like he would have picked faster than this. So he might get auto drafted Saquon Barkley, honestly. But I think I'll probably end up taking Ezekiel Elliott at 6th overall. I feel like Zeke is this guy that has the path. And he does. He takes Nick Chubb. You were right. But yeah, I'm going to take Zeke with this draft pick. I just feel like Ezekiel Elliott has this path to being the number 1 overall quarterback. So I want running back. So I want Zeke on my teams, and he's just has way better offensive line than Saquon, which is why I would prefer Ezekiel Elliott over Saquon Barkley. But look at this: the first 7 picks, all running backs. Like people are just going to be able to get loaded up
running.
on Travis Kelce and the top 5 receivers in the back half of this draft.
So I can't wait for my pick to come around, and I'm going to get a real shot at Tyreek, Devontae, Stephon Diggs, and if I can get one of those 3 guys, I'm first round with the, that's good. But then again, at the same time, you come back around in that second round, and if all of these running backs are gone, then you're kind of in a tough spot too. I mean, my goodness, 9 straight running backs. Okay, so
9 straight running backs off the board. Alex, who's live with me right now on TikTok, if you're watching live on YouTube, has to make a pick at 10th overall, and you're really in a tough spot. You could go with Aaron Jones, but there's so much wide receiver value and tight end value. You almost have to go Kelce or Adams, I think, at 10th overall if they're there. Yeah, and
I think Devontae Adams. I'm gonna dive into the Last Dance with him and Rodgers. I think that they may just go nuclear this year and then just leave a wake of destruction behind them en route to the Super Bowl. So I could see that very, very as a very, very likely possibility.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Travis Kelce at 11th overall is actually insane as well. I was considering him at 6th overall. I probably would have taken Travis Kelce and Devontae Adams ahead of Jonathan Taylor and maybe even ahead of Saquon Barkley. That one's really tough for me.
I'm fading Saquon this season, I think. I don't believe in his offensive line, and Daniel Jones is his quarterback. Bad quarterbacks and good running backs, just that's too easy to scheme for.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fade Saquon here with everything I have. I hope I'm not wrong though, because I like him as a football player. I don't like his situation, and I don't like his quarterback really. So.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley has a bottom 10 offensive line and a bottom 10 quarterback, so there's definitely a lot working against him. But we're also drafting Christian McCaffrey, who has Sam Darnold at quarterback. We are, drafting. We have seen guys in bad situations do well in fantasy, especially in PPR leagues before. So I won't be surprised if Saquon Barkley ends up winning leagues. But Kelce and Adams are definitely the safer choices. And Alex, you're back up on the clock here, and you get Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. Yeah.
I think I missed on my running back, so I'm just gonna stack. I'm gonna stack pass catcher and hope that I can land a running back later, I guess. But how do you pass up having the 1 and 2 wide receiver on your team? That seems crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, and I don't expect any drafts to go exactly like this. But that being said, it could happen. People really don't want to miss out on the first-round running backs this season, and I could easily see my high-stakes draft going, honestly, something really similar to this. And if it does, I'm definitely going to be somewhat prepared because there's all the running backs are off the board already. The running backs I'm currently looking at, these are supposed to be round 3 running backs, and I want nothing to do with them. So I'm going to end up, if I get Calvin Ridley at this spot, that's just going to be insane. I would gladly take Calvin Ridley in the middle of the second round. But this is what happens when there is this run on running backs. I won't be surprised if Calvin Ridley goes before Joe Mixon, Antonio Gibson, and Najee Harris in a lot of drafts.
Oh, Jack's been listening. Let's go. There we go, Jack.
Jack is in on. He's in on Darren Waller. Jack is also extremely high on the Browns' offensive line. Our Browns.WalterPicks content creator, I was on live with him earlier today, and he believes the Browns have the number 1 offensive line in the league. What do you think about that, Alex?
That's a really good argument. The one other argument I think I would make would be the Colts, just because they have Quentin Nelson, and having Quentin Nelson just elevates your offensive line so much. But the Browns, across the board, may have the strongest offensive line when it comes to talent at each position. I think you can throw the Buccaneers in there as well. The Patriots, they have excellent offensive lines.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they have the same sort of rushing success that they did this past season, I think that there's no doubt that would be the best offensive line top to bottom.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Browns being number one. I also think the Saints have low-key a really good offensive line
They do.
this season.
Their interior is a little bit suspect for me, but I love their tackles. They have probably the best tackle duo in the game. I'm not real crazy about Cesar Ruiz and the rest of that interior Saints line. I love Teron Armstead and Ramczyk. Cesar Ruiz, that was just such a reach of a pick, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting a question in the YouTube chat. I want your thoughts on this. I've already answered it in the chat, but what do you think about Julio Jones this year? Is he a guy that you're targeting in fantasy or avoiding?
He's usually somebody I avoid because of his track record with injuries. You know, taking a guy with that much upside, but also a guy that you may only get to play 10, 11, 12 times a year, that can be worth it in and of itself to have him out there on the field for those weeks. Me, personally, I like to pick guys with the smallest standard deviation per week that I can find. So I target who is the absolute most consistent player week to week, who's got that smallest standard deviation of variance, and how do I get that guy on my team and in my lineup every week? Because yeah, it's great to win those big weeks where you have, you know, Julio explode, Tyreek explode, whoever. But I found a lot of my success in just being as consistent as possible, finding guys who are consistent. And me personally, I'm going to stay away from Julio just because I don't want to deal with the headache of him playing only 10 or 11 games.
Yeah, it's definitely not an exciting sign that he's already dealing with injuries, and he has like most of preseason. Like I was super excited when he was brought on to the Titans, and I do think he absolutely balled out when healthy last season, and people don't really like give him the respect he deserves for how well he did play last season when healthy. But the fact that he's already dealing with injuries is not a good sign for me. And I don't like drafting guys that are already injured because the injuries are going to find your fantasy team. You don't need to go find the injuries. So I'm pretty out on Julio Jones right now in fantasy football. But as soon as he's fully healthy, I won't be surprised when he starts doing Julio Jones things again because he did that last season.
Right. And he's got a better quarterback now, I think, too, and is in probably a little bit better system to allow him to kind of, I guess, like, get open easier, you know, because that wide zone Shanahan type scheme, it gets those wide receivers open on crossing routes to where you get Julio catching a crossing route and turning upfield against a cornerback and a safety.
Yeah.
Like,
I think you're on the clock, Alex.
You know, I think I've just got to take Josh Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs.
That's the best running back.
God, this is what happens when you go wide receiver. This is why, like, you have the two of the top two, I would argue, wide receivers in fantasy football, but now your top running back is Josh Jacobs, and who knows who your second running back's going to be.
You know, it was in that second round. I was kind of torn between taking Tyreek or Joe Mixon, but I'm not a believer in the Bengals necessarily this season either. So I can't in good conscience take Joe Mixon with the third pick in the second round. That, like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I've been hurt too many times by Joe Mixon. So I'll take my chances on Josh Jacobs, but man, I was really hoping for that Mahomes Tyreek stack to come back around in the fourth round.
Yeah.
For me.
And someone in the YouTube comments is saying this Kamanka team, the team with the Lakers logo, I think they had the 8th overall pick in this draft, is looking stacked. I was surprised that CeeDee Lamb went this late in this mock draft. It seems like a very good value on the sleeper platform specifically, because on Underdog he's going right where George Kittle went, like first pick of the third round or first 3 picks of the third round. And on ESPN and Yahoo, that's about where he's going as well. I took CeeDee Lamb with the first pick of the third round in my first high-stakes fantasy draft of the season, where I started with Christian McCaffrey, and then I followed it up with CeeDee Lamb and Terry McLaurin, both of whom went after those 2 picks in this draft. But Allen Robinson's, to me, one of the safest wide receivers in all of fantasy football, so I don't feel bad about taking Robinson over CeeDee Lamb. But CeeDee Lamb is going to ball out this season. And one of my favorite guys going after CeeDee Lamb is the guy that was just taken, Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, to me, do not have that much different of a profile heading into this season. But CeeDee Lamb is the guy getting all of the hype. So I like Amari Cooper a lot, too, in the 4th round. I'm really hoping in my actual draft I can snag Amari Cooper in the 4th round. But whoever we're drafting with right now and the WalterPicks fans, they are much sharper, hopefully, than the people that I'm drafting with, because there is very little value to come by right now in this draft.
We're getting into this running back dead zone to where it just makes me want to barf at taking these running backs with one of these like top picks. You know, my choices were Darrell Henderson, Kareem Hunt, and Javonte Williams in that 4th round spot, and I'm not comfortable taking any of those guys with my 4th pick. Now,
yeah,
Josh potential RB2, and I can deal with having 2 RB2s if it means I have the best 2 wide receivers in the game and a top 2 quarterback. I think I can, in my mind, I'll deal with the running back woes of Josh Jacobs if it means that I have all 3 of those other guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. You don't want to reach for running backs in the 4th round, and I'm not going to reach for a running back right now in the 4th round, even though I really need a running back. And instead, I'm going to draft DJ Moore, who I love a lot. I don't feel great about taking DJ Moore ahead of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but to me, DJ Moore is on a team where he's going to lead them in receiving. And you also just hyped up Sam Darnold a bunch, Alex, so maybe I'm higher on DJ Moore now. But yeah, I think I'm building a pretty strong team here with the 6th pick, though I'm nervous about how my running back situation is going to end up filling out. But I still refuse to reach for running backs because this is not the time to reach for running backs in the 4th and 5th rounds of your drafts. Is like the almost worst time, especially if there's like with how this draft has gone and how early running backs have gone in this draft. Like I would like Chris Carson and DeAndre Swift with this pick, but if they're going in the middle of the 3rd round, then I'm just not gonna be targeting running backs.
I love Mike Davis, but I'm not taking him in the 4th round.
Yeah, and we are live, by the way, on YouTube right now. For anyone watching live on TikTok, we are showing a live mock draft with us and some of the listeners on YouTube. Just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. I had the 6th pick in the draft. I started Zeke, Ridley, Allen Robinson, DJ Moore. Alex had the 10th pick. He started Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. Followed that up with Josh Jacobs and Josh Allen. I got a question in the YouTube chat here about George Kittle. And I am starting to get more and more optimistic about George Kittle. I don't hate taking him with the first pick of the 3rd round or early 3rd round. How are you feeling about George Kittle, Alex?
He's personally my favorite tight end in the game. So it's hard to it's a hard pill to swallow that Kelsey and Waller are both better tight ends than him right now. But I think, once Trey Lance gets it, if him and Kittle can get on the same page early, I think the sky is the limit for those two.
Yeah.
Because you now have somebody who can extend plays and allow George Kittle more time to get open.
Yeah.
And all that to do is, a quarterback starts moving around the pocket. He's looking for his safety valve, his running back, his tight end, his sure-handed receiver.
Yeah.
Kittle is the best at all of those things when it comes to the group of pass catchers that they have on that team. Debo is great, but Debo's kind of like a running back. He's like a rich man's Cordero Patterson, I think. And so he's not necessarily like a 3rd down safety valve that you're looking for. Like George Kittle can be a sure-handed guy who's physical at the point of the catch, and it's just a fantastic football. The tight end, hands down, 5 mile. There's no other question about that. He is the best walking tight end in football.
Yeah.
I love George Kittle.
George Kittle is an absolute beast. I would take
him early to get the shot at it.
Yeah, I don't think you can really argue about George Kittle being a top two tight end just in the NFL because his blocking is just that insane. But yeah, I would rank Darren Waller ahead of him and Travis Kelce ahead of him for fantasy football purposes. But I still like George Kittle in the mid-3rd round.
Kittle on teams in the past, and I've spent that, second, third, fourth round pick on a tight end like that, and it's actually ended up winning me my league because the gap in play is just so vast, and having that tight end, that Darren Waller, that Travis Kelce, that really, really can separate you from somebody else. Because a lot of the times, the wide receiver 5 through 15, that margin is going to be so much smaller than the tight end 5 through 15. So if you can get somebody on the top side of that top 5, you're going to be setting yourself up very, very nicely.
Yeah, I agree. And I just got Kyle Pitts in the 5th round. I don't hate the value here. I was actually hoping T.J. Hawkinson would be here with this pick, and usually Kyle Pitts is going before T.J. Hawkinson, but I'm fine getting Kyle Pitts if I'm getting him this late and as the 5th tight end. I don't think I want to be taking Kyle Pitts as the 4th tight end, because if he's getting taken as the 4th tight end, that probably means I can wait and get Hawkinson as the 5th tight end. But if Hawkinson goes as the 4th tight end, I'm cool with Kyle Pitts as the 5th tight end. And ideally, in your draft, Mark Andrews actually goes before both of them. But I don't hate Mark Andrews right now either. All of the Ravens receivers guys are hurt. They're all hurt. The top 2 guys, it's like Devin Duvernay is going to be their starting number 1 receiver in week 1 at this current rate, with Marquise Hollywood-Brown out with an injury, Miles Boykin's out with an injury, Sammy Watkins out with an injury, Rashad Bateman's out with an injury. It's absolutely insane how decimated the Ravens already are in the receiving room. So I don't hate Mark Andrews right now, especially if you can get him like late 5th, early 6th round, which is where he's about to go in this mock draft. But I'm starting to get nervous about my running back situation. I actually think I would have considered Mike Davis with my 5th round pick, and I wouldn't have felt very good about it in this draft because he is on my do not draft list. But I've been pretty persuaded today about Mike Davis and why I should be considering him in the 6th and 7th rounds. One player that has not been picked yet in this draft, Alex, is Courtland Sutton. I've gotten questions about him in the YouTube channel and on the TikTok chat. How are you feeling about Courtland Sutton this year?
I think a lot of people sort of forgot the kind of season that he had before he dealt with all those injuries. He's a really, really solid physical wide receiver. He reminds me a lot of Kenny Golladay in the sense to where he's the guy who can go up and win a jump ball. With Teddy Bridgewater being the quarterback now, I think that all of the Denver receivers probably get a bump just because the quarterback play is going to be so much more consistent, it's going to be so much less volatile and so much more stable. I think a lot of this attention is going to Jerry Jeudy right now, which is fair and is very, very warranted. He has the most potential to take that next step this season, being that second-year wide receiver that takes a big jump, getting a better quarterback.
Alex is on the clock. You're on the clock, Alex.
I think with the plethora of weapons that they have, they're in a good position to bring Courtland Sutton back and not really miss a beat.
Yeah, I think I like Jerry Jeudy more than Courtland Sutton this year, but Courtland Sutton is starting to become a pretty good value, I think, in fantasy drafts. If you're getting him 8th, 9th round, which a lot of times he's going in the 8th, 9th round, like that's really not that bad. Plethora. Do I not say that word right? Or oh no, I am saying it right. Plethora. That is a good word. I do like him. And Alex goes with Trey Sermon. I was 100% going to take Trey Sermon with my next pick. I like Javonte Williams and Trey Sermon with where they're getting picked. At least one of these guys to me is going to end up being this league-winning running back. I don't hate the Darrell Henderson pick there either. I think he's still going to be the lead guy in Los Angeles, but certainly Sony Michel makes him slightly less exciting. We will see. We're going to see how that backfield works out, though.
So I went Odell Beckham and Trey Sermon on my last 2 picks. I think I took Odell Beckham as an homage to Brett Coleman, who has really pounded the table for Odell Beckham and has kind of defended him for all the slander that he's gotten, that, Odell's not the same guy that he used to be and all this. But, I don't think that there's any reason to think that Odell cannot produce at a high level if he is healthy, because given Baker's improved play every year, the great offensive line, the great running game, all signs are pointing towards Odell being him being the number 1 guy in Cleveland. And if their offense is as good as everybody's thinking it's going to be, then I think snagging Odell in like the 6th round, 7th round, if you can get him somewhere in there, somewhere later that, he's not usually drafted at, to where like a healthy Odell is drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round because of that big game potential. But I think I'm going to like that pick. I've made that pick a couple times now.
Yeah.
In my mind. I know Odell, he can be a headache on your fantasy team, but I think with the picks that I made earlier, I think I'm willing to be a little bit more risky with my wide receiver picks after my first two, because you're pretty much guaranteed a top 5 season from Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, barring good health and good quarterback play, which both of those guys are going to have, assuming all stays the same. And that's I think a good strategy for people to think about too, is what kind of risk are you taking on your draft picks? Like, are you looking through this first round? Somebody who took a lot of risk in my eyes with their first round pick would be the guy with the 7th pick, to where they're taking a high risk running back with that first pick, and they didn't necessarily do a whole lot after that to bolster up that running back room on the chance that Saquon does bust, because that risk is so high this year. So I think about those sorts of things, or I try to, at least when I'm drafting teams, when I'm doing my mock draft, I try and consider risk and how early do I want to take players with higher risk, and how do I mitigate that risk later on in the draft? Because you can always mitigate your risk by drafting a handcuff, drafting your first round handcuff, but you can also kind of mitigate your risk by just having a very, very deep running back room,
right,
to where it's okay if one guy busts, because I've got 2 or 3 others that I still feel comfortable with.
Yeah,
So
I like that, Alex. I typically try to, in the beginning rounds, not lose my draft, and then as the draft goes on, take guys with upside, which is exactly why I did snag Chase Edmonds in the 6th round. I think that he's going to be here in most drafts. I took Chase Edmonds, actually, I think, in the last pick of the 6th round in my first high-stakes league, the 6th round. But I do like Chase Edmonds, especially in a PPR league. Like, we know he's a good receiver. So, almost worst-case scenario, he's a running back 3 with his receiving role. But best-case scenario is he beats out James Conner, who definitely could be toast at this point in his career. And he also carves out a bit of a rushing role. And now we have a guy who's getting 5, 6, 7 targets a game, but also getting 10-plus carries a game, who's a running back 2 with running back 1 upside. So, yeah, I like Chase Edmonds a lot in the 6th, 7th round. I'm really warming up to him. And he's also, by all accounts, 100% healthy, while James Conner's been missing a lot of training camp.
Yeah, I was really torn between Trey Sermon and Chase Edmonds, because personally, when I'm picking running backs, I pick running backs who catch the football, and I don't know if Trey Sermon necessarily fits that mold like Chase Edmonds does. So I do think, a guy like that who has that true pass-catching third down back upside, taking him in the 6th or 7th round, taking a Chase Edmonds, taking Myles Gaskin. He went a little bit early in this mock, but he's got some pass catching upside too. Taking guys like that later on in your fantasy football draft is going to be much, much more fruitful, I think, than always taking a handcuff. Because you take a handcuff and your top guy stays healthy the whole year, well, then you kind of wasted a draft pick in a way, to where you could have gone a different direction and potentially gotten more out of your other pick, especially in best ball, which is why I don't necessarily like drafting handcuffs in best ball. I would rather almost just draft the guys who have the highest upside and potential each week,
right,
and go from there,
right,
and not necessarily worry about, making sure I have Tony Pollard or Alex Madison.
Yeah,
whoever.
and it definitely matters on the backfield too. Like there's some backfields where you're going to draft the handcuff, and then your starter's going to get hurt, and your handcuff's not going to just take over that role that the starter had. Like in a lot of backfields, that will not be the case. I think Tony Pollard and Zeke are one of the clear kind of handcuff situations where Tony Pollard will win fantasy leagues if Zeke goes down. Kareem Hunt, similar situation with Nick Chubb, but there's lots of guys where that won't be the case.
There's three teams in my mind to where it's that the handcuff is tried and true, and it's Minnesota, it's Dallas, and then it is oh my gosh, you just said it, Minnesota, Dallas,
Cleveland.
And Cleveland, yes, those are the only teams that I think have that true, and the New Orleans Saints. When Latavius Murray replaces Alvin Kamara, he does very, very, very well, and so I do like that. Let's see.
I will be rating some of these teams on the YouTube live once we wrap up the draft. I went with Devonta Smith in the 7th round. I like Devonta Smith's upside a lot. I think he's going to step in as the clear number 1 alpha wide receiver for the Eagles right away. I'm pumped that he is looking 100% fully healthy and fully participating in practice and the preseason games, But I'm not feeling super good about my running back room. I would have gone with Damian Harris over Devonta Smith if Damian Harris was there, but William snagged Damian Harris from me in the 7th round. And I just refuse to reach for these running backs that have so much risk at all the points of the draft. I can't reach for these guys. I will only let them fall to me, which is why I only have 2 running backs. And it's why my team is super high risk right now. But with how this draft went, I got a lot of value at the wide receiver position. I think I got a value with Kyle Pitts. And I also think Chase Edmonds was one of the few running backs that actually slid in this draft. So I like how my team's coming together, but I am worried about how the running back room will look at the end of this draft. But overall, I think there's a lot of strong teams. I think that, speaking of deep running back rooms, Falcons.WalterPicks with the 12th overall pick, he went 4 straight running backs in this draft, and he probably won't take another one in the rest of the draft, and he's going to get 3 or 4 good receivers with his next picks. So I don't hate the strategy for Falcons.WalterPicks in this one, because there is a lot of good late round wide receivers that hopefully he's about to get. I also like the Joe Mixon, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift team a decent amount, though I don't love the Michael Thomas pick in the 6th round or the Noah Fant pick in the 7th round. So that team to me is probably the most risky, especially with DeAndre Swift already dealing with a groin injury. I would probably rank that team as last right now in this mock draft.
And Adam Thielen's due for some touchdown regression too.
Yeah. I like the first 2 picks a lot, though. I think you started strong. You got the end of the to me, Joe Mixon's the end of the running back 1 tier that I'm in on. I'd take Clyde in the back end of the 2nd, beginning of the 3rd, but I wouldn't take Clyde Edwards-Helaire over Calvin Ridley, where I had to make that decision at 6. But I would have taken Joe Mixon over Calvin Ridley, so I don't hate it. And after that, though, I think you kind of went off the rails a little bit in this draft. Julio Jones and Michael Thomas, 2 guys that are already dealing with injuries, so I don't love that. The 11th overall pick is auto drafting now, so I won't comment on his draft. Alex is back on the clock. Alex has Josh Jacobs, Trey Sermon, Michael Carter. I don't love Michael Carter that much. Alex, is he a guy that you're high on?
I like him because he has that pass catching upside, like I said, that
right.
3rd down back upside. Because I saw a tweet and it was really funny. It said, "Fantasy football summed up. You need to draft running backs that catch passes, and you need to draft quarterbacks that run the ball."
Right.
And that sounds so backwards, but that's in a way been my strategy for a long time, to where pass catching running backs have been the most fruitful when it comes to fantasy points.
Yeah, I like
leagues,
I like the
I get pass catching running backs in PPR leagues. That's kind of my bread and butter, I would say. And then I like Laviska Shenault too, because the Jags are going to be throwing the ball 40 times a game because their offensive line stinks, and they just got their first round running back hurt, so they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit, in my opinion.
Not only was their first round running back hurt, though, Alex, on top of Travis Etienne's injury, Travis Etienne was also a pass-catching running back, and he was going to play that role in the offense. So if there's anyone that benefited from the Etienne injury other than James Robinson and Carlos Hyde, it was Laviska Shenault. Yeah, it was definitely Laviska Shenault specifically. He's going to play that gadget role that we probably would have seen Etienne get a little bit. before that injury. So yeah, I like Chenault a lot in rounds 8, 9, 10. We're seeing some quarterbacks go off the board as well. It looks like I'm going to be the last or second to last team to draft a quarterback in this draft, and I don't know if I'll take one of my next pick or not. We'll see. Depends what pick goes here.
Your boy Jalen Waddle's there, or not Jalen Waddle, Jalen Hurts. Oh, you passed on Jalen Hurts?
No, I am not going to pass on Jalen Hurts. Especially because I got Devonta Smith. I mean, I would prefer Jalen Hurts over Ryan Tannehill, over Aaron Rodgers, over Trevor Lawrence, over Dak Prescott went pretty late. I don't think I would prefer him over Dak Prescott, but I like Jalen Hurts a lot, and I will probably be able to get him in the 9th round in most drafts. But he has more rushing upside than all of the 3 quarterbacks taken before him, and just like you were just saying, Alex, rushing upside is massive at the quarterback position.
Yep, absolutely. I don't know if I can draft Jalen Hurts before Aaron Rodgers, though. I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, there's no reason to think that he's going to show. I'll walk that back a little bit. He may regress a little bit, but if he regresses, he's still got that same group that he played so well with, and they're starting to slowly add pieces that are making that team better. I think the Packers' defense is going to improve, and in turn, that makes Aaron Rodgers and that Packers offense better. It's going to make their job easier. I just taking Jalen Hurts before Aaron Rodgers, that feels so bizarre to me.
Yeah, and that's why you can just wait for Jalen Hurts in most of your drafts. I got Jalen Hurts in the 9th round of my first high-stakes league, and I actually had already taken Kyler Murray, which was annoying, because if I had known Jalen Hurts was just going to be there in the 9th round, I probably wouldn't have spent an early pick. But if you're watching on TikTok right now, you can see the draft. I actually got him in the 11th round, Got him in the 11th round. This was a 12-person league, and I got Devonta Smith in the 8th round of that draft. That was on ESPN, though, and ESPN's rankings are, I think, a lot less sharp than Sleeper's rankings. Yahoo's rankings are also a lot less sharp, which is why I like doing these mock drafts on Sleeper, because Sleeper gets you better prepared for your drafts over on Yahoo and ESPN, because you're just getting sharper ADP and rankings from the Sleeper platform. So Jalen Hurts, I got in the 11th round. The 11th round of my first high-stakes league. I got Devonta Smith in the 8th round. So I loved how that draft went for me. I think you could argue that Jalen Hurts isn't a safe pick, but I don't need him to be a safe pick in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. I need him to have upside, and he has the upside because he could literally average over 50 rushing yards a game. He's going to run the ball a lot.
I like his offensive line when they're healthy, too.
Yeah.
They've got some really pieces there. Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson. I mean, they've got some good offensive linemen. It's just, man, I really, really hope as many guys can stay healthy this year, because that's really how we see the best football is the best players stay the most healthy, and that's really the best way to get a good glimpse of who's the best and who's not, is if everybody can stay healthy. Because if we start to get into that situation that we were in last year with the Eagles, to where Jalen's kind of running for his life back there, that's not really going to be all that successful, to be quite honest, because you just spy a linebacker on him, and you kind of shadow Jalen Hurts the whole game, and that takes away a lot of what you're trying to do. But I want to be optimistic about the Eagles, because I like Jalen Hurts as a person, and I want to see him succeed.
Did someone take A.J. Dillon? 2 picks before my pick. I was 100% going with A.J. Dillon there. That's disappointing. I'm going to go with Jamal Williams.
I like that as well. I still haven't snagged a tight end, and I'm looking here at the board. I may get a shot at Tunyon, which I'm a little bit skeptical about Tunyon because he does have that touchdown regression that he's due for.
Yeah, but he also could see a lot of increased playing time this season. The Packers really didn't add anything outside of Randall Cobb and Amari Rodgers. Nothing's changed in the offense. So yeah, Tunyon does just get snagged a couple picks before you. I like where Logan Thomas went to. I think Logan Thomas is a really good value. I like the team at 7th overall, outside of being an injury away with 2 guys that could easily get injured this season, Saquon Barkley and Chris Carson. the rest of the team is absolute fire and definitely has a lot of upside. I would probably give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10 at the 7th overall pick, except for the running back depth. And there's not very many teams in this mock draft with running back depth. And in exactly why you shouldn't reach on quarterbacks, Falcons.WalterPicks honestly kind of putting on a clinic in this draft, even though you only got 3 wide receivers, and obviously your normal draft won't just be 10 rounds. But he didn't spend any draft capital on a quarterback. He still ended up with Matthew Stafford and Trey Lance. And Trey Lance could easily just turn into a better version of Jalen Hurts later in the season. So I don't hate the quarterback strategy that was put on in that 12th pick. I honestly like that team. I think one of the safest teams in this league because of the 4 running back start and still getting kind of 3 upside wide receivers later in the draft. Though I think you could have done better with those wide receivers. I would have preferred, I think, Chenault over Pittman. But Pittman probably has a little bit more upside because he could be the number 1 guy there.
We really don't know who the number 1 guy is in Indianapolis yet, do we?
No. Nobody knows. It looks like it's probably, we were actually just talking to Anthony, our Colts.WalterPicks creator, and he guessed T.Y. Hilton, but he also said it could easily be Paris Campbell or Michael Pittman. I like Paris Campbell the most because I do think Paris Campbell is the type of receiver that could do really, really well with Carson Wentz. Yeah.
He can really stretch the field. I like Pittman as your more contested catch guy if they can get that kind of yin and yang going. Pittman doesn't run quite the routes I don't think Campbell does, but Campbell's college tape is really good. I mean, he is fast and he runs good routes and like I said, can take the top off the defense. As long as Carson Wentz can get him the ball. I made a video recently talking about the Vegas win totals, and I actually have the Colts going under their projected win total of, I think, 9 wins. I have the Colts either winning 7 or 8 games. I think Carson Wentz holds them back, and their defense isn't good enough to win in spite of Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
That could be a spicy-ish take for this season, but I think the Colts are going to go under in that division. I think we finished last. The Texans can win a couple games. I think we'll beat the Jags at least once, and maybe steal one from the Colts too. I think your division games if you can split most of your division series, then in my mind, that's going to be a win. If we don't win any other games outside of our division besides beating the Jags and Colts once, so be it, because this season's kind of going down the toilet anyways.
Yeah, I think that's a good wrapping up point for our Texans discussion. Alex, thanks for hopping on the live stream. This was a lot of fun, man. I do appreciate you having you on. We definitely got to go live together at some point this season, and you got to go follow Texans.WalterPicks. If you're not already following Texans.WalterPicks, you're missing out. So toss him a follow. Alex, thanks for hopping on, man. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me on. I love talking football. Let's do this again.
Definitely. All right, guys. I'm going to be wrapping up the live stream on YouTube as always. So come to the YouTube channel at WalterPicks on YouTube. I'm just going to be summarizing the mock draft that we just saw, and then I will be wrapping up for the day. Thanks for tuning in if you are on the TikTok live stream. And if you're on the YouTube live stream, let's take a look at what happened in this mock draft. Once again, the last mock draft we did, I got absolutely dominated. I honestly felt very nervous about the draft I was getting prepared for when we did our last mock draft. But this one, I think, went a little bit better for me, even though, again, I feel pretty sketchy at the running back position. Just more evidence as to why you got to be taking running backs early in fantasy football. If you look at the teams that took at least 2 running backs to start out the draft, let's start there. The 2nd overall pick, Dalvin Cook, J.K. Dobbins. You reached a little bit for J.K. Dobbins, but you still ended up with a better running back room than most of the rest of the draft. I don't love J.K. Dobbins in the back end of the 2nd round, though. You reached for him, but then that allowed you to get those middle round receivers. So I would probably give the 2nd overall pick a 6 or 7 out of 10. I don't love Jamar Chase in the 6th round. I would far, far, far prefer Jerry Jeudy, who went 2 picks before. I would honestly argue that even Devonta Smith is a better rookie wide receiver in fantasy right now than Jamar Chase. In the right next to you at the 3rd overall pick, I think this might be my favorite team in the draft. Alvin Kamara, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is also the end of a tier for me at running back, it's Joe Mixon or it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Wherever you want to cut off the tier, it's one of those two guys. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire has this ankle issue that I'm kind of nervous about right now. If we ignore the ankle issue and assume that he's fully healthy, which apparently he's already getting limited practices in, which is a good sign, and then you got Keenan Allen in the 3rd round. He's a beast. Hawkinson is a guy that I really like and was hoping to get instead of Kyle Pitts, where I got Kyle Pitts. And then you tag-teamed Keenan Allen with Justin Herbert for a great stack there. And Robbie Anderson's also a guy I really like. Plus, you sniped me on Damian Harris. So, yeah, I think this 3rd overall pick's probably like a 9 out of 10. I like the Damian Harris pick a lot. I feel like Damian Harris is not getting enough hype after the Sony Michel trade. I know that not many people, and I didn't expect Sony Michel to be very involved in New England, but it's just more evidence that Damian Harris is going to be the lead back for the Patriots this season. He's going to be the lead guy on 1st and on 2nd down. And while he might not catch that many passes, he's going to be consistent. And you look around, he was literally picked 2 picks before Tony Pollard, who's literally just a handcuff. So I don't hate the Damian Harris pick. I actually really like it, and I would have taken him for sure over Devontae Smith at my pick. If we look at another team that went early running back, we already talked about the 9th overall pick, but the 12th overall pick we've already discussed as well. Those were the only teams that went running back to start. I think all those teams are a little bit safer for that reason. If you look at the 1st overall pick, there's 3 different players that could all lead their position in scoring. You got Christian McCaffrey, you got George Kittle, who's I have Waller and Kelsey ahead of George Kittle, but I don't hate pairing him with Christian McCaffrey, and obviously A.J. Brown's just going to be an absolute beast. He's already got knee issues this season, but he had knee issues all last season too, and he still balled out. So while that is a little concerning, I still like A.J. Brown where you got A.J. Brown. I like A.J. Brown in that spot a lot. And then you got Chris Godwin. I don't love Myles Gaskin or Zach Moss. Like, after Christian McCaffrey, I think you're going to be really struggling at the running back position. But outside of that, probably like a 7 out of 10 for the 1st overall pick team. If we go to the 4th overall pick, again, just absolute weakness at the running back position after Derrick Henry. But I do like this team, and I do like where you got Lamar Jackson. I told you my quarterback strategy this season, if I can get the 4th of Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, I'm going to feel pretty good about that. And that's exactly what you did in this draft, because Mahomes was already picked, Josh Allen was already picked, Kyler Murray was already picked, and Lamar Jackson has just as good of a chance as all those guys to finish as the number 1 overall quarterback. So if you can be the 4th guy that gets one of those guys, then you kind of have an inherent advantage over all those teams that drafted those quarterbacks before you. So I don't hate that pick. If I'm going to go early quarterback, it's probably going to be the 4th of those 4 guys. So I like that, and I love the Jerry Jeudy pick as well. I was a little disappointed that he got picked then. I kind of knew when I took Chase Edmonds that Jerry Jeudy was going to be gone by my next pick, but I needed a running back, and you also needed a running back, but you just refused to reach. You went with Raheem Mostert and A.J. Dillon, which I don't hate. Both guys should have standalone value at least and have upside in the event of an injury, but they also probably won't be super consistent. If we look at the 5th overall pick with the Browns.WalterPicks team, I think he reached for Tony Pollard, but other than that, he does have one of the better running back groups in this league, and you got Darren Waller and Kyler Murray, who could both finish top at their position as well. And then the receivers he grabbed later in the draft, I like in PPR leagues too. I'm really warming up to Corey Davis, though I wouldn't take him over Jerry Jeudy. I like Corey Davis a lot. I think I would give the 4th overall pick probably a 7 or 8 out of 10. Just the 2nd running back slot I think is a little concerning. At the 8th overall pick, I think that team is absolutely nasty. The 8th overall pick with Austin Eckler, and then all those receivers you got are really, really good. Darrell Henderson is also a guy that is going to lose some work to Sony Michel, but he's still going to be the pass-catching back in the Rams' backfield, and I still think he's going to lead the backfield in touches, so I don't hate him in the 6th round, but it'll be interesting to see how late he goes in my actual drafts. Guys, thanks for tuning in. This was a lot of fun. I'll be back live. I have an actual high-stakes live draft tomorrow night that I'm hoping we can get a mock draft in around 5 p.m. to prepare myself for the real thing. So I'll be trying to do another one of these where you guys can join the mock draft live at 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Guys, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, and I will be back soon.